Cutting machine intimidation is real. If it's your first machine, if you've had other machines, for some reason, just getting it out of the box and making that first project can be a bit of a task. So I actually won this Portrait 3 a little over a year ago from Mim Jenkinson. If you're into planner stickers, go check out her website. She has a lot of great information. And I've been wanting to use it. I have other Cameos, but this is my first portrait, so I've been a little scared. I know the mat's a little narrower. I know that the printed page hangs off the edges of the mat. Just knowing exactly how everything works has prevented me from getting it out of the box. Yesterday I was talking to my sister and I was working on a quilting project and it wasn't quite going right and I wasn't sure how to do it. And she said, you know, the best thing to do is to take action. And she is so right. So I was making my list of free fonts and designs that I send out to my newsletter every week. And I came across these adorable Halloween cat stickers. And I thought that would be a really great inspiration and project to make on the Portrait 3. So today I'm going to go through the entire sticker making process, not exactly in detail, but at least covering the major steps. And that way we can both go through it together and hopefully you will get your machine out of the box if you haven't yet. All right, let's get started. So of course mistakes can happen. Things always come up in crafting. It shouldn't be a reason to not keep going. Hopefully it's something we can work through, but I'm going to do this in an order that best sets the project up for success. So first I'm going to download my files and then I'm going to prepare those files in the software so that they're all ready to cut. And then we're going to unbox and set up the portrait. We'll do some test cuts on the material. Anytime you use a different machine, a different blade, a different material, you always want to make sure that you do test cuts. Then we're going to double check the file, make sure that everything is still set up the way that we want it. We're going to print it, then we're going to load it in the machine and cut. Okay, so let's go get our files. CraftHouse SVG is one of the companies that I go to when I am looking for designs or fonts with commercial use. So I usually download them for myself. But I also have an email list where I compile a curated list once a week and I send those out. Not the files themselves, but I share links to where people can get the files for their own resource library. When I was on here recently, I saw these cat Halloween stickers and they were just super cute. So they, as I mentioned before, inspired me to do this project. I did take advantage of their entire shop membership. So I purchased it. And then now, so you'll see these aren't actually free. I just don't have to pay for them because I already am a member. You can do it yourself. I don't know how often they run the sale, but it is for a limited time right now. So I'll put a link in that if you want to grab that. But they do also have a lot of free designs if you want to try their designs before you sign up for the membership. I'm going to work with these two. So I just select it. I'll add it to cart. I'll go through the checkout process and then I will get a link to download the zipped file and then it will show up in my downloads. So I've already done that. I use a PC, so the process could be a little bit different with the Mac, but I downloaded the zipped file. I did right click and extract all, and then I put the two folders into another folder just called portrait stickers. So now I have the two together. So I'll just double click, and then here are all of the files from that one group. Since it's extracted, I can see what the images are. And these are all transparent PNGs. Not all files that you get will be transparent PNGs. You always want to pay attention. I do have a post on my website about what files you can open in Silhouette Studio and which ones you want to use for different projects, as well as like a cheat sheet so you can kind of quickly see, depending on the software edition that you have, and what you want to do, like which files you should open. But I do know that these are all transparent PNGs. And then I want to make sure that I have my software set up to autotrace PNGs so that it has cut lines when I open it. And I do. I had turned that on recently. I don't always leave this on because it does take up a lot of resources when you're opening a PNG. And if you're not wanting to cut around the contour of the PNG, then you don't need to have that on. You can turn it off. Maybe you want to put together like a group of images like flowers or something and then cut around the whole edge, then you can just trace it. So I don't always have that turned on. So I'll click OK. I don't think I'm going to use all of the images, but I'll use a bunch of them. So I'm just going to start dragging them onto my work surface, and you can see it has the red line. And if I went to send, it has a cut line. So I'll resize them here in a bit, but first I want to open up the ones that I want to use. So I'm going to zoom out. And that way, as I'm opening the files, they're not overlapping each other. Okay, so here's some from the first one, and then I will go back into the other file, and I'll grab some of these. And these, as I'm importing these, are about 12 inches tall, which is very large. So I'm going to select them all and make them a little bit smaller here in a minute. But you can make them as small as you want. You don't want to go too big because it is a raster image, so it will pixelate, but you can definitely make them smaller. We'll close that. And then I'm going to select all of these and then just drag the corner until they all get a lot smaller. And I'm going to put it over the work area. And that way I can just click up here, oops, here, and it will bring it back to where I can see it easily. And then I'll just select one, and I can see this is about 1.6 inches tall. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So. 2.3. I'll make them about 2 inches tall. And then also I can do more adjusting when I'm filling the page with them. Okay, so now let's set up our design screen. So there's 3 really important things with print and cut that you want to make sure are always accurate. You want to have your design page, your media size, set up as the same size as the material you're printing on, and you want that to be the same size that your printer is set to. So I need to change the machine here to portrait. And now I have the cutting mat just automatically changed. I'm going to go back full screen. I changed the media size to letter. You could also do, whatever size that you're needing that you're going to be printing on, as long as it fits within. And when I said earlier in the video, and I said that the material hangs off the edge of the mat, it doesn't hang off the edge of the mat. It hangs outside of the grid area. To me, always using a 12-inch Cameo, everything always fit within the grid. You always wanted to leave it inside the grid. Then when the Pro came out, that one you'll sometimes put the material outside of the grid area. So I'm a little more comfortable with that, but to me it's a little weird. So now we're going to turn on Show Print Border, and then we're going to turn on the Cut Border. Actually, I'm going to turn off the cut border here first for a second. So the gray line is the print border, and this is the size that my printer is set to. If I had my printer set up to like 4x6, if I was printing like pictures, then I would just see a 4x6 gray box up here, and I would know that if I sent it to my printer, it wouldn't print the registration marks in the right spot. So show print border. The cut border is always good to have, just so you know you're placing everything inside of the area where the machine will actually cut. Then we're going to go to the registration marks tab and turn them on. And then since I have not used this machine before, first time, I'm going to leave the default registration marks. There's lots of adjustments that you can do to fit more parts of the design or bigger designs in your area. But the smaller that you make the registration marks, the more difficult it is for the machine to pick it up and read it properly. So now I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see all of the images. And then I can start placing the stickers, the images on the page within the cut border, which is the red line. You can see it moved inside because it has the registration marks. And then also I want to make sure that there's no part of the printed image in these hash mark areas. This is where the machine needs to be able to go through to register this registration mark. And if you have part of your printed design in there, it's going to interfere. And it may start out fine up here, but probably by the time it gets to the bottom of the page, it's not going to be cutting your design properly. So I can go ahead and fill this page with the stickers. If you want, you can also try selecting all and then using the nesting feature, which is on one of the upgraded software. And that will nest it in here for you, and it will keep it out of the registration marks. But I just want to have like a full, just simple sheet. I'm not trying to get as much as I want, as much as I can out of this paper. This is more for just test. So I'm going to undo that. So Control Z, and I'm just going to finish placing these on here. But I do know that they will all fit. So, and then I can always duplicate some or grab more from the original file to add more if I want. And then when you have a design and it has some white around the outside and the cut line is outside of that area, then if you have it overlapping like this should not be a problem, because when the registration is happening, there's no printed part here. What you want to avoid is the actual part that's going to conflict with the registration mark. So I have no need to do that in this. But if you had a large, like I've made birthday cards before where the half of it is blank, and I'll have that out here, even though the machine will cut through it, but there's no image. So just don't let any of the printed part get in there. I have all of the stickers where I want them to be on the page, and none of them look like they're overlapping. I'm going to go to the send panel, and this will show all the cut lines. I can zoom in a little bit here. And I just want to make sure that I don't have anything overlapping. You can definitely put these right next to each other to save space if you needed the space, and the machine won't have any problem. It'll just cut each shape out as it should. But for this, again, first time, we're going to give it a little more space. So just do a quick check, make sure everything looks good. I have, oh, see, now this is a little strange. So something, maybe when I change the size of these, I'm just going to go to no cut and then cut, and that made it correct again. See how there's like this red line that's outside of it? No cut, cut. Okay, now they all look good. If I was going to do something with text in it or something where I wanted to duplicate, I would want to create one image, go to the send panel, set up the cut lines, and then I can go ahead and duplicate. And that way you're not having to go and turn on or turn off cut lines or cut edge for each one after it's already been set up. So you just have to do it one time. Okay, so this is all set. I am going to go ahead and save. So File, Save As, and let's see here. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff on my desktop. Cat Halloween stickers. And I'm going to save it as a studio file. And okay. And then now if for some reason my computer shuts down or I close Silhouette, I can just go and open the file and it'll be ready to go. So now let's go ahead and unbox the Silhouette Portrait 3. This is the Silhouette Portrait 3, which is a comparable model to the Cameo 4. So there's the Cameo 4, the 12-inch one, the 15-inch, and then the Pro. And these came out a few years ago. There is a new model out now, the Silhouette Portrait 4, which is similar to the Silhouette Cameo 5. So the Portrait is like one model number behind the Cameo that it is most similar to. So the tools that are used in the Portrait 3 are the same as the ones that are used in the Cameo 4, the regular one tool carriage, not the specialty tool carriages. But let's go ahead and open this. So all the machines come with a card on top, and you go to silhouetteamerica.com and set up, and you can download the software. I do have a video, I'll put a link to that too, to help download software currently. There's always a big question over should you go to the latest version of the Silhouette software or should you go to a legacy version? You can do a 4.4.554 or 552. I have more information about that in the video. You can always start at the most current version, and if you have any problems, you can uninstall and go back to a legacy version. That's actually the best way to be able to make sure you're getting all the current features that the machines offer. So here's the power supply, and these are the same as on the other. So I'll actually be using, I'll just leave this in the package and I'll use my older Cameo power supply for this. That way I don't have a whole bunch of the same things laying around. There's a USB cable. I like to use the USB. This Portrait 3 also has Bluetooth. I find that USB is more stable, and you also need the USB if you have to do a firmware update, so you have to plug in the USB to your computer. And then it comes with an autoblade. I'll go ahead and open this. Okay, so this is the Portrait 3 and the Cameo 4 autoblade. It has a flat back. It has a metal detecting strip here so that the machine will tell the software what blade you're using, what tool you're using. And it works completely different than the autoblade for the Cameo 3 and the Portrait 2s. So those are not interchangeable at all. There are tool adapters. So this is for the sketch pens. So if you have sketch pens, you can put them in here and use in the Portrait 3. Or if you have the black adapter, you can use the older ratchet style blades that the older silhouettes used. They're not auto. They just, you just set it and use it in there. There's more information about those online. And I have used the pen holder for the Cameo 3 in my Cameo 4 with this blue holder. So if you have that, you can. Otherwise, it's best to get the Cameo 4 pen holder, and then you don't need the adapter. A lot of people miss this tool in unboxing and opening up their stuff. So this serves a few purposes, and I highly recommend taking the cap off of the blade. So just untwist it and unscrew it all the way. And so you can see the blade in there. Make sure there's nothing in there. And then make sure you put it on. You don't want to over twist it, but make sure it's on there snugly. I have heard of people having problems with their blade, and then they go to take this out and it doesn't even have the white cap on there. Somehow in the packaging process, it just got lost. So make sure that's on there because that will cause problems. It won't set properly. The other one is for tightening. So this one with the two prongs, yeah, either one. And then this one will also take off the cap on older blades. And then this tool, this is actually a tool, it will remove the Bluetooth device from the machine. If for some reason you have to remove that, there's a couple of screws on the bottom of the machine, and you take those out and then use this to pry that out. So that's what those are. So put this somewhere safe and put your blade somewhere safe. There are some registration here. If you're the first owner, if you bought a new machine, go ahead and register it. Then you'll have the 1-year warranty. If you bought a used machine, there's no need to register it, but you do want to create an account at Silhouette America because that is going to link your software upgrades, if you have one, to that. And then also if you purchase or download any Silhouette files, they'll all be linked to that. All right, so here's the mat, and this thing is adorable. So the grid is only 8 inches wide, and then it extends a 1/4 inch on either side, so it's 8.5. Just so, and then it's 12 inches long. The grid is, so you can fit an 8.5 by 11 inch paper on here for cutting stickers or any material. And then now we can take the machine out. And then anytime you're unboxing or opening up a new silhouette machine, you always want to make sure you get all of the packing materials removed, because it can really mess up your machine. I just can't get over how cute this is. All right. Let's see what we got. We got one here. We have one holding the tool. And there's a piece right here. Just kind of checking out, seeing what kind of differences it has. It doesn't have a cross cutter like the Cameo 3 or the Cameo 4s have, at least that I can see. This is the Bluetooth dongle is under here, so you just unscrew that. But I've never had, well, I don't use my Bluetooth much, but that's not a common thing to have to take out. On this end here, we have the power and then the USB. All right, let's plug this in. It's important to follow the steps in the setup because it will tell you to plug in the power to your machine and power it on before the USB. So make sure you do it in the proper steps just to save any frustrations in the future. All right, so I have my cables plugged in. So I'm gonna plug in the power. I'm gonna wait on the USB, just like the instructions say. So the power is just down here. So that is plugged in. Okay, we're gonna wait on the USB. And then now it says to go ahead and power it on. So here's the power button. So next it would have me download and install the software. I've already done that because I've been using the Silhouette software for a while, so I can skip that step. If you were going to a newer machine, you want to make sure that you're on an updated version that would be compatible. It's always good to read the release notes, and it kind of corresponds with when the machine was released, if you're not sure. I know like the Cameo 4s had to be on at least version 4.3. Okay, so yeah, it said to update to the current or the most recent version if needed. I know the version I'm on should be fine. And then it would want me to launch the software. I already have it open. And then it says I can plug in the USB after powering it on, which it's still powered on. This cable is directional. Make sure you're putting it in properly. I have heard of people having problems with this getting pushed out. So this one's rounded on the top. Plug that in there. When you register your machine, you will get the $25 in the Silhouette Design Store. They call it a subscription, but so it's a 1 month, which is the equivalent to $25. And then you'll also, when you open your library and you log into your account, and then if you click on the free with machine designs, you should see a folder that says portrait if you're opening the portrait machine. And then the free designs will be in there if you want to use those. Okay, the software and the machine are set up. I registered it. Now I'm going to load my blade. I can turn this off for now. And then I have quite a few blades, but I'm going to use the one that just came with this machine, just so I'm starting fresh with a new blade. And I made some stickers, so I label mine. Like this one here was a number 3. So I'm going to call this one number 4. And then when I track my cut settings, I'll know which blade I use or get an idea of how often that I use it. So, and then now let's load it in the machine. This is one of the biggest problems that people have using their machine, is that the blade is not installed properly. So let's go over this here first. So right now, this hole is blank. When it's locked in place, it's blue. And then you want to support underneath. Place the tool in and make sure it's pressed all the way down, and then lock it in place. So it'll be completely blue, and then there won't be a gap between the blade. So between this part of the blade and the top part of the tool carrier, it will make complete contact. If the blade holder is too high up, then it won't set the blade properly when it's tapping. If it's not locked in place, then it can push it out when it's tapping. We want to make sure this area is clear so that when the blade is setting itself, it is able to set the blade depth correctly. If something is blocking this, then every time it sets, it's going to completely reset to 0, and it won't ever set correctly. So press it all the way in, lock it in place. So since I've never used a machine like this, the portrait before, I'm going to try loading the mat without anything on it, just to see how it goes. So I will leave the protective sheet on here just because I don't need to mess with the sticky right now. And then there's these 3 lines right here. The mat needs to line up with this outer, not this one here, but this one here. So I'll turn my machine back on, and then I'll load it up. And then you'll see that the roller is going to go along just right on this edge here, and then same over here. So it's going to be evenly distributed. And then I'm going to push the up arrow, and that loaded it. All right. I definitely want to do some test cuts because I've never used this machine before and it's a new blade, but I don't want to waste my material. So other than having a document, which I do have, of my preferred cut settings, since this is a new machine, I am going to actually print this page, and then I'm going to test cut on the printed page. So to do that, when you're using registration marks, you want to make sure that the cuts that you're going to make are not going to interfere with your designs, and they're not going to interfere with the registration marks. And then also, I don't really want it to be registering when it's doing test cuts because it takes time. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle and place it exactly in the bottom of the material that is outside of any of the areas. And then I'm going to copy this, or I'll just cut. I'm going to open a new page and paste. And now this, I know, is where I can work within. So I'm just going to open the text box, and you can do a letter B, a letter R, just some simple letter that's going to have round and straight lines, and then ideally a center area that you can weed out. So now I know this is where it's going to cut. I'm going to go back and I'm going to print my page, and then we're going to do some test cuts with this first. Okay, so I'll go back to my page setup. Once we have this all set up, we've been to the send panel, we know it's going to cut where we want it to. We'll go back to design, and we're going to print our page. I can see that my gray print line here is still correct. So you go to File, Print, and then you'll get your choices here. I'm using my TS9521C, and then open Preferences. And we're using a photo sticker paper. So I'm going to use photo printing. I do not want it to be borderless. If you do borderless, it's going to extend the image and your registration marks are not going to be where they're supposed to be. So turn that off. Photo paper plus glossy 2. I'll just do standard. You can change it to high quality if you want. Here, printer paper size. Make sure it's set to letter, 8.5 by 11. The orientation is matching. I'm going to use the rear feed slot. I prefer that for thicker material. This sticker paper I'm printing on would feed through, but I just prefer the rear tray. I usually only print one sheet at a time anyway. If you let the printer pick up a couple of sticker sheets, sometimes they can stick together. All right, so this is all set. I want to turn on print preview. So this is the print preview in my printer setting. There is also print preview in the Silhouette software. I recommend turning that off. It also uses a lot of resources and can cause your software to crash. So turn it off in the Silhouette software, but turn it on if your printer allows it. And then we'll go to print. And now I can see all 3 of my registration marks. They look to be spaced accordingly. And then I'm going to go turn on my printer, make sure my paper's loaded before I press start printing. This is the material I'm going to be using today. This is just a premium inkjet photo sticker paper. It's glossy. And then this is a holographic laminate sheet. It's an adhesive laminate sheet. And I've used these before on other stickers that I made. I'm really trying to keep it simple today, so I'm not going to use this, although it's really hard not to. It's not necessarily too much more difficult to use a laminate sheet on top. You do have to apply it. You want to make sure that it's on there smoothly with no air bubbles. I cut out the corner of the laminate if it's reflective, so that the machine isn't trying to read that part. And then you want to make sure that you do your test cuts with the laminate on so that you're going to be cutting properly when it's time. But today we're just going to work on the sticker paper. So this is my Canon printer. It would probably turn on if I sent it, but I'm just going to turn it on anyway. I'm going to open the rear feed slot with this. This is the glossy side, so I hang out facing out. Let me move my feeder here. And then slide that in so it goes right along. And then I need to lower this down in order for it to print. So glossy side out. And then I need to confirm this is not 7 by 10. That's what I was doing before, so I'm going to change this. So letter, and then had the glossy 2, just like I had in the preferences. So it's set to letter plus glossy 2, and yes. And now it's ready, so I want to make sure I pull out the tray here to catch it when it prints. And now I'm going to go back to my computer and I can click start printing. Okay, here's the printed page. And these look pretty cute. So I can see I have all my registration marks. And now I can put it on the mat. I'm going to remove the protective sheet. It's always a good idea to turn the mat over when you're removing something because it helps keep it from curling up too bad. Right, and then set that aside. Okay, so using a brand new mat can be a little tricky. This has a paper backing. There is a slight chance it can stick to it. I think it'll be okay. I think I'm not going to leave it on there too long. I'm just going to put it on there. We're going to cut it and then remove it. So this has some markings here. It shows you 8.5 by 11 or the A4. So I'm going to line it up with this outer mark, and it'll go to this outer mark on that side. And then smooth it on. Sometimes I'll use a brayer to make sure it's all adhered, but since this is so sticky, I don't want to push it on there too hard. I just want to make sure it's firmly attached so it's not going to slide off. All right. Now we're going to load this in the machine. So we're going to line it up here, just like I did in the test. And then push the up arrow to load. Okay, now we're going to test cut first. So I'm going to go back to the software. I'm going to go to the screen that has the B on it, and I'm going to do some test cuts. So the test cuts are going to be down here at the bottom. And this is helpful for two reasons. One, so I don't have to be taking the sticker paper off or completely unloading it. And then two, because it's not going to interfere with the registration marks or any of my designs. So I have on this other screen here, the box and the letter. So I'm going to go to the send panel, and I'm going to select the box and choose no cut. That's just a border that I want to keep my test cut in. And then I'm going to, whenever you type text in the software, it automatically comes out as cut edge. I'm going to change it to cut just so I can see it better. And then I know I have a margin here underneath and some space above. It's not going to interfere with any of my printed design or my registration marks. And then we'll go to material. And it's always good to start with a compatible material that's preset, unless you just know what your cut settings are if you've already done it and have them written down. So I have sticker paper white selected. I have my portrait 3 here chosen. The action is set to cut. I have the auto blade has been detected. I have my cut line here, and it is suggesting that I have a blade depth of 2, which the machine will set it to, force of 14, 1 pass, and a speed of 8. I like to turn on line segment overcut. It really helps, especially when cutting paper, because it will lift the blade at each intersection of a different line. This is also, you want to decide if you want to be doing a die cut where you're cutting all the way through both the sticker sheet and the backing, or if you're just doing a kiss cut, which is just going to cut through the sticker sheet and leave it all connected on the backing. I think for this one, I want to leave the sheet all together. So I'm just gonna aim for kiss cut settings. So now we can go ahead and I'm gonna click send. Looks pretty good. I get my weeding tool. And it cut quite nicely. So I got the center out just fine. And I can actually remove the whole B. Cut nice and cleanly. And it did cut a little bit into the backing, but that's okay. If it were like vinyl, you don't want to cut into the backing because it can make it not come off nicely, but the sticker sheets should be fine. So I think we're ready to set. We're going to use the factory preset sticker paper settings. And I'm going to just, for safety, unload. And make sure it's nice and lined up. Something I kind of noticed is there's some texture in the rollers here to help grip. So when you put it in, it may not go all the way up under. So if you put it in there and kind of shimmy it, then it will be completely under the rollers here. And then just make sure it's lined up on this side. And then load. And then if you look across the top here, you can see that the line is level with this line on the machine. You want to make sure that you have the mat turned on in the software, which we already did. So I think we are ready to register and cut. Go back to our sticker sheet setup. Okay, we definitely don't want to move anything. We're going to go to send, final check. All of our cut lines are there. I'm going to go ahead and choose sticker paper white. Those settings were great. I'm going to turn on line segment overcut. Make sure I have everything else set up. The only last thing here that I have to worry about before I hit send is, since this is a glossy material, sometimes it can cause a reflection which can make the software not read the registration marks properly. To combat that,